I don't think I could have envisioned that going any worse for the Cleveland Browns as they lose 26-22 to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football. I'm going to lead this off with the fact that I'm not really sure what this team is going to be able to do without Nick Chubb. And Stefanski has confirmed in his postgame conference that he's going to be out for the year with a knee injury that I'm sure comes with a lot of gross details. I say that because we saw what the offense had to offer without him on tonight, and it just simply wasn't good enough. With Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson, I thought were the two biggest question marks headed into the year. They had their chance to lead a game-winning touchdown drive late in the fourth quarter, and they just couldn't get it done. They just simply fell a bit short. And for either Stefanski or Watson, I'm not really sure what the excuse is for this one. Stefanski can't really fall back on the idea that he has limited quarterback play with, injured Baker or Jacoby Brissett or Deshaun Watson in his first 6 games back. Stefanski was wheeling and dealing with, besides Nick Chubb at the end of the game, with the full deck of cards there. And Deshaun Watson just has to look better by this point. There's no excuse for rust or weather conditions. The weather was fine. He should have had plenty of preparation for the offense. There was no legitimate reason. There's no acceptable reason for Deshaun Watson to look like he looked in this game, especially in the latter stages. The game just had a bad feel from the very first play, where it was a pick six, but that wasn't really the only part that kind of sent me for a loop. It was a 5-wide formation, which, you have Nick Chubb there. He was still in the game at this point, and he wasn't tired because it was the first play of the game, and you're taking him out of the backfield, removing that threat from the Steelers. Okay, it was on a pass that goes off of Harrison Bryant's hands. First off, I would like Harrison Bryant to make that catch, although I'm not sure if it was in a spot where he would have expected it. I'm also just not sure why Harrison Bryant is on the field on an empty set formation on shotgun. If you want a tight end out there, maybe you go with Njoku. I haven't looked back at the play, but maybe it was both Njoku and Harrison Bryant on there. At which point, why do you have 2 tight ends on a 5-wide set? I'm not really sure. Again, I would not put Harrison Bryant out there on a 5-wide empty shotgun formation. But I guess that's just me. I'm not the head coach of the Browns. Nick Chubb, again, you had Chubb available on the first play. And when the next drive, when the Browns actually started utilizing Nick Chubb in their offense a bit more, it made that pick six look like it could have been a completely avoidable catastrophe. The Browns offense would get a field goal. Grant Delpit had an amazing interception. I'm gonna try to highlight maybe some positives. Grant Delpit had another good game. It looks like it's going to be a great season for him. But then Watson gets sacked on the ensuing drive. Browns go 3 and out, and Hopkins misses a 43-yard field goal. And the first quarter would end 7-3 in the favor of the Steelers, but not before some major shenanigans. So at first, Cleveland appeared to have converted a 4th and 1 attempt after a Deshaun Watson run. Another odd play where it was 3rd and 1, but then they went with some play action thing that didn't work. And then on 4th and 1, they ran this quarterback power option from under center. I'm not sure what was going on there. Just, again, Nick Chubb was still in the game. Just give the ball to Nick Chubb and have him get a yard. Not really sure what's going on there. First quarter runs out of time. Then Pittsburgh challenges the play for a fumble, and the fumble was confirmed, giving the Steelers the ball, which meant the game went back in time to when the first quarter was still going. And then in that last first quarter, Pittsburgh threw a pass, and the guy who caught it was completely leveled by Denzel Ward, who fumbled the ball. I mean, not Ward didn't fumble the ball, but I guess, you know what? Yeah, Denzel Ward actually did end up fumbling the ball on that play. That it was going nuts in the end of the first quarter, but the end of the story here to the first quarter, but the Browns still ended up with the ball after the end of the first quarter. Very odd sequence of events. So Browns driving early again in the second. Chubb was having a really solid night at this point, and that's when the run happens, and when the replay was shown over the big screen, I'm assuming, in Pittsburgh, the Steeler fans had an audible reaction. And while this is, division rivalry and all the fans hate each other, I do appreciate the Steeler fans chanting Chubb for while he was down on the ground and being carted off. I do appreciate that sign of respect there. I do appreciate that. The Browns would finish off that drive with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, but at that point, I was still kind of in shock over the Chubb injury. Not actually in shock, but just I hadn't felt that empty about a lead over the Steelers, I think, ever, where the Browns were up 11-7 at that point, and I just really didn't care because I knew that Nick Chubb was probably gone for the year. I knew that was looming. The Browns offense at this point pretty much dies. The Steelers do get a field goal, and then some uncharacteristically bad defensive play left Pickens wide open for a receiving touchdown. Pittsburgh would go for 2 after this and fail, so they would lead 16-11 after that touchdown. The Browns offense showing some signs of life at the end of the half, with Hopkins making a 55-yard field goal. Steelers would open the second half with a field goal of their own, taking their lead back to 5. But Jerome Ford had himself a really nice run to set up Pierre Strong Jr.'s 1-yard touchdown rush. I thought Jerome Ford filled in just about as well as you could have hoped for. Obviously, it wasn't to the same level of production and just dominance as Nick Chubb, but I felt like Jerome Ford had some nice runs. He showed off that he could have some top-end speed, and I am hopeful for what he can do this season and beyond, but, man, it not at the cost of Nick Chubb, man. That just, ugh. The Browns would go for 2 after that touchdown to go up by 3, and they got it, and the game heads to the fourth quarter with the score 22-19. A couple of promising Browns drives were ruined by really dumb penalties from Deshaun Watson, whether it was that unnecessary roughness penalty that he got after shoving one of the Pittsburgh defenders after he was out of bounds. Could have gotten a face mask on that play too, and then he actually did get a face mask trying to evade pressure, just completely obvious right in front of the official. Special teams also making plenty of dumb mistakes. You had Mike Ford just tackling somebody who called for a fair catch, and Mike Ford just didn't see it. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones not catching a punt and leading to a bounce for that, a very, very favorable bounce for the Steelers, heading the Browns back at their own like 5-yard line. There is the missed field goal. I'm not sure if that's like an entire special teams gaffe or just a missed kick. But the Browns, they did get the ball with the lead with less than 10 minutes to go at their own 6-yard line. They convert a pretty clutch 3rd and 13 to Elijah Moore, so I am feeling cautiously optimistic about the result of this game, and that was until Alex Highsmith would force a fumble, which was picked up by TJ Watt for the second defensive touchdown of the game. Steelers had 6 sacks in this one, by the way, just complete dominance as far as getting to the quarterback for the Steelers defensive line. Browns do nothing with their next drive. The Browns defense has to bail them out again to give them one last chance, and if they can drive down the field and get this touchdown, then all is forgiven from this game. All of Deshaun Watson's just bad throws and stupid penalties would have been okay. All of the weird and gross play calling decision by Kevin Stefanski would have been washed away. And they do manage to get the ball a little bit past midfield, giving us a little bit of that hope. But then some pressure gets to Watson, forcing a 4th and 9 attempt. And on that 4th and 9 to keep the game alive, Deshaun Watson threw a pass that was super out of bounds for Donovan Peoples-Jones. And yeah, he was getting grabbed and held, but I feel like a very good argument could be made that it was just simply an uncatchable ball, and the officials are going to lean towards the side of just swallowing their whistle on potential game clinching plays like that anyway. They're going to be letting the players decide, and whether that's right or wrong, that's what you have to work around. And again, if you're going to try to force a call, at least make that ball a little bit more catchable. So the head coach and the supposed franchise quarterback had a shot to make things work in the final 2 minutes. They just couldn't do it. And I do think those were the 2 biggest question marks headed into this season. You couldn't really gauge much about either Stefanski's calling or Deshaun Watson's play much based on the Cincinnati game, as it was weird weather conditions, and that game just kind of had a strange feel to it. And I'm getting a little worried that we might have gotten our answer here in week 2. And this offense without Nick Chubb definitely looked a lot more lifeless than with Nick Chubb on the field. And if they can improve it, and this doesn't get much better in the coming weeks, I feel like this season might not end up the way that a lot of Browns fans hope that it would have at the beginning of the season. And if they fall short of the expectations they set for themselves, we could be seeing a lot of changes headed into the 2024 season. But that's a long way away. There's still a long way to go, but early prospects for this game for the season based on this game, maybe not so great. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far into it, leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you would like to see more like it. This game sucked. See you at the next one.